Muy buenas tardes.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Water Forum. It is for me a pleasure to introduce José Nicolás de Pierola, the moderator of this next session. But first, I would like to say that José Nicolás used to be my professor of fluid mechanics, not only mine, but also of Miguel Estrada. So we are a little bit nervous because usually when we have a professor, they really want to, take a test and see how we're doing and see if we're really representing the university well. But he's promised not to do it, which I think it's appropriate because we don't have the time. But José Nicolás, my dear friend, my mentor, and why not saying it, someone even personally, we are very close. He studied at the La Molina Agrarian University, at the National Engineering University. He's been professor of both universities, and we have fond memories of these times, and then postgraduate studies in Germany. So, without further ado, Don José Nicolás de Pierola. José, you have the floor. Well, thank you. Thank you to the organizing committee, and of course, thank you for Vinio's words that show how old I am. Well, elegantly put, I'm advanced in years. Yes, I have been a professor at the National Engineering University, but this afternoon we have a very interesting session regarding water, which is my passion. It's been for many years my passion. I have worked with water and mining. So this afternoon, we have a presentation, a keynote speech on green infrastructure in mining, the social and environmental role from our Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Ángel Manero Campos, Minister of Agricultural Development and Irrigation. He leads all of the politics, programs, and projects destined to promote agricultural development, food security, promote technological innovation, and to have a sustainable management of agricultural resources, and of course for any other complementary areas. His management focuses on improving the competitiveness of the agricultural sector because we are right now in a moment in the country where agriculture is doing a lot in terms of exports, and it's contributing to the well-being of farmers and communities, which is another big sector in our country where we have small plots of land distributed out throughout the country. And this is also in a process of changing. With these introductory words, I have the pleasure to introduce Mr. Manero, Minister of Agricultural Development and Irrigation, for him to present. We have 30 minutes, Mr. Minister, as the time allotted for you to present. And we will have a good presentation. We're quite expectant and looking forward to listening to you. Thank you very much. You have the floor.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you. I would like to greet each and every one of you. Without a doubt, this is an important year for agriculture, not only for exporting agriculture. We are offering 20%. We have grown 20% this year. And the most interesting thing is that this 20% growth can be sustained in the next 10 or 20 years if we consider the new ports, if we consider the new irrigation projects that we are promoting, if we consider the agricultural law that we just approved, if we consider the access to new markets. This 20% growth in agricultural exports will be sustained in the next 20 years. Now, this year, we're going to export $15 billion, which is a third of what the mining exports. But if we keep on growing 20% in 15 years, we can really reach mining in terms of exports, and that would be key for the country. And so I was saying that it's not only agricultural exports, small agriculture. We have a historic landmark year for small agriculture. No product, no commodity, agricultural product has gone down in price. Usually in former years, the prices of potatoes, of sweet potato, they go down, carrots went down. Other years, it's onions, squash, pumpkin, lemon. We don't have any issues in terms of price this year. We have water. The reservoirs are about 70 to 80% capacity. The weather is good for agriculture. It's a great year for small farming. And most likely these conditions will be kept in the upcoming years, except for 2030, where we think another coastal El Nino will appear. But the next few years will be very important for this sector. And certainly, we have 18 months. I have been a minister for 18 months. And the ministers' cabinets also, we learned from the other sectors. All of the ministers, they talk about their own areas and sectors. And for us, the economy of the country has been key. When we discuss the budget twice a year, we discuss the budget because there is an complementary credit. We look at the conditions and we look at the foundation of the country. Peru has economic soundness. If we, compare it, we have solvency. We have more assets than liabilities. Net positive equity. We have assets that could be extremely productive. We just, of course, need to materialize many of our assets. But what is the problem for Peru, and why are we restricting budget this year, and next year it will also see some recession? Because we do have an issue with the fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit that is imposed by the country itself. The country says you cannot spend more than what you're earning, or maybe you can have an excess 1.8% of expenditure. If we apply that to the private sector, any company that starts working, they maybe get a loan and they have debt, but these cannot. We do have some, fiscal deficit ratios that we need to fulfill. So definitely, public budget can grow if we increase the tax base. And that's where we are, definitely we need to promote economic activities that definitely generate more taxes. And that's why we are here, because the main activity in the country that generates taxes is mining. That's why, agricultural engineers, I always say, if we want more budget for infrastructure, for agriculture, we necessarily have to support mining, because that will mean more taxes, generate more revenue. Now, mainly, we don't need for mining to contribute. We only need for the projects to be approved, because once the projects are approved and they announce them, it allows us to forecast. It allows us to forecast cash flows, that in 5 years, we will have this much revenue, or in 10 years' time, we will have this much revenue. That's why it is key to approve mining projects. And then we will see how we play a prominent role there. Next slide, please. Oh, I turned it off. Okay. I don't know how to move the slides. With the green one? Peru is a country that ironically, we have almost 2% of fresh water in the world. If that is translated into cubic meters, we have 2 trillion cubic meters a year. 2 trillion, not billion, but 2 trillion cubic meters a year. That's what we have as availability of water. And in 200 years as a republic, what has been the storage capacity that we have developed as a country? Between both the private and public sector, we have developed, reservoirs, dams to store water for 6 billion cubic meters. So we only have the capacity to store 3% of the available water that we have in Peru. Our huge problem is that over 90% of water goes to the Atlantic basin. And so 95% of fresh water, so it gets lost through the Amazon and Brazil. So Peru's huge possibilities to store water and to detour it and to take it to the other side of the mountain range to get our deserts greener and to provide water to any activity that could be developed in the country. And that is perfectly feasible. And again, we have plenty of water. Those who say that, the future war is going to be a war for water, they are wrong. Water in Peru, we have it, and we have it plentifully. The problem is that we have never done investment in order to store it and to detour it and to take it to wherever is needed. And it's very important, just like when we want to understand gas pipelines, right? They say that for these gas pipelines to be feasible, we need to ensure demand. And when I say that, Peru has plenty of water, but the big problem is that we need to ensure that there is demand for the water projects to be feasible and viable. So ultimately, if you are in any place in the country, you can see this. Mostly you will find a big source of water. In the worst case scenario, you will find it 300 kilometers away. And wherever you're standing in the country, you will see that the source of water will be located 300 kilometers away. That means that we need to store it and to detour and take it 300 kilometers down. How much does it cost per kilometer for a canal or tunnelized system? Between $1 million per linear kilometer. How much does it cost to store? Worst case scenario, $5 per cubic meter. Finally, ultimately, water is just a financial issue, and more so than a financial issue, water is a issue of demand, of ensuring that there is demand for these large water projects. Storage or detouring are funded, and to do that in Peru, it would cost 10 cents a dollar per cubic meter. In the worst case scenario, other projects, it could be 7 cents, other ones will be 5 cents. In the worst case scenario, to store it and to detour it, it will cost 10 cents of dollar per cubic meter. The big problem here is that in most cases, water is destined to the small producers, and small producers and farmers cannot pay for that. They don't pay for that water, and they will never want to pay for that water. That's why activities such as mining is so important, because it will ensure the demand to store water and to detour it to different areas in the country. I was saying that in 200 years as a republic, Peru, between the public and private sectors, we have developed storage capacity for 6 billion cubic meters a year. So that accounts for 3% of the available water. We have never really taken on firmly a portfolio of projects that would combine storage, detouring, and other development projects. Now we have 25 irrigation projects, and that means to store 8 billion cubic meters. These 25 projects account for 8 billion cubic meters of stored water. That is 30% more than what has been done in 200 years. So it is very important to see that these projects are materialized. We start in Tumbes with Guanábana, the Margen Derecha project. Then we have Poechos, Alto Piura, Las Delicias, in Lambayeque, Olmos. We go down, we find Chavimochic, we have Chinecas. We go further down, Concom Topará, Lanchas Villacurí. We have another Rio Apurímac at Nazca, Pampas de Nazca. We also have Majes, Yanapuquio for the southern part of Arequipa. We have the mid-sized dams that are working in Moquegua, or Cardos, Arasa, Chonta, Chulca for Huancayo. In any region of Peru, we can do an irrigation project. We, as administration, we have the commitment that these 25 projects by June next year, by July next year, they have to be already on track. That means that by July next year, these projects, some of them will be under execution, or the other ones will be signed for their implementation. This is what we want to leave behind as this current administration. So the next administration comes in and they have the obligation of continuing with these projects. This is something that Peru has never really dared to dream or to do, to budget $24 billion to store 8 billion cubic meters of water. This investment will happen in the next 10 years. Some projects take 2 years, others 3, or they're 5, others 6. But in the next 10 years, all of these 25 projects need to be built. This doesn't mean that Peru will need to disburse or spend $24 billion, because we're developing different types of contract, G2G, PPPs, and then definitely they will be able to fund the larger projects. Some will be 25-year terms, 30-year terms. So this will be long-term and also at a very, very low rate. And it will be a G2G contract. It is quite an important dam for Cajamarca. It will allow to give water to the population and to give water to the agricultural sector. Then we have Yanapuquio. This is a dam that is very important to ensure Tia Maria project, because in Yanapuquio, water will stop being a source of conflict because there will be water for everyone. And this Yanapuquio project is going to be launched in October for the bidding process, and the next year it will be the construction will start. In Moquegua, we have 3 dams where Anglo American is doing right now. It's building the technical dossier, so it will be done based on the taxes for work modality. It will be done along with the Ministry of Agriculture. Also with Southern Peru in Tacna, we have Andenes. Southern Peru has rehabilitated over 100 hectares of terraces, and we have still to sign an agreement with Southern Peru that will make the company to invest $35 million to recover terraces in Tacna, in Arequipa, and Apurimac. It is a hugely important project for us. We also have productive partnerships. We have one with New Manalac in Cajamarca. This is very interesting because it's been 16 business plans developed so that these organizations of producers, 16 farmers organizations will start doing productive process, in this case, dairy. It is very important for productive projects that we promote are market-based. That the producer has to make money with the activity. And fortunately, if you don't know it, milk, I don't know how to put it, milk business has changed a lot. Before, it was, a big company going there buying from the dairy producers, and then they would pay maybe 90 cents a soul, 90 cents a soul, or one soul, 10 cents. It was like a flat rate for every region. Now, the whole purchasing scheme has changed. The big company tells the dairy producer, I am going to pay you based on quality. If you meet these quality standards, you will get a range from 80 cents all the way up to 2 soles 10 cents. 2 soles 10 cents is, top quality milk. And that has made that many dairy producers, most of the dairy producers in Peru, are going through quality improvement. They are not getting paid 90 cents like before. Now they are getting 1 sol 80, 2 soles. In Cajamarca, some producers are getting 2 soles 10. So the milk business has been transformed, and it has turned into something very profitable. So we need more supply for that, and that has grown this year. Last year, it has grown significantly. The dairy and the milk business next year, it is also going to increase and to grow. And then also the cheese business has turned into a profitable business. So if we want to promote dairy businesses, it's a good time to do it, and it will also be one in the upcoming years. We also have the experience with the taxes for works modality with Antamina. There is a project that is relatively small. It's 2.5 million soles, but it really opens up a door because we are now willing to work a portfolio of 2.5 billion soles for taxes for works with mining companies or with other, major companies from other sectors that need water for their activities. ANA, the National Water Authority, ANA. The ANA has this blue certificate, which is for companies that promote, water conservation culture, availability of water. So definitely it is very important. But even more important is the whole restructuring process that we are working with the ANA. The ANA has had a lot of problems in the past few years. I have to say, political, the head of the ANA changed every 3 months. And that really created a lot of problems. And we had also passed on of many of these problems to us. The ANA right now is being re-engineered, but since last year, now, since we have the new head, we have unlocked many projects. In the past 12 months, we have unlocked approximately $18 million worth of projects. And this year we have approved projects for $9 billion. This morning we saw Minsur. Minsur has a process, an environmental impact study that is being underway to be approved. It's been a year and a half, and so definitely we need to say that nobody knew really that this was getting so delayed. Not even the head of the ANA. Sometimes even technical people, it goes round and round and round, and they go and do some remarks and observations, and we didn't know, and so we looked at the file, and we have committed that in 2 weeks they will have the authorization. And then, by looking at the Minsur, we saw that there's 8 cases of mining companies that are in the same situation. They're waiting for approval for a long time. So what we're going to do is that in the next 3 months, we are going to start, closing off some of these processes, approving these projects, and in the next 3 months, we should not have any project pending in terms of approval for these projects. Something that we will launch in the next 12 months is, and I think this is also related to really using these the assets. It's using the lands of the communities, farmers' lands, indigenous lands, and most of them are productive anyway. We want to develop forestry projects. We want to develop commercial forestry projects. So this is a little bit difficult in Peru because usually nobody really wants to enter into agreements with the communities because they say that the agreements are not really respected. The communities, then they change the leaders. The new leaders don't really understand or don't respect the new contract. So we are trying to innovate in a way, trying to think of new ways to working with them. We have called for the 5 largest timber companies in the world. And we asked, okay, what do you need to invest along in partnership with the communities? Maybe that they have 30-year leases on the land, or, and then you will completely be in charge of the project. And so they have identified some risks, of course, from social risks, from risks of, contracting the legal obligations, social conflicts, illegal mining, drug trafficking in some countries, in some areas of the country. So, and the logical solution is, okay, as a government, we can create a trust fund to ensure those investments, to secure those investments. So now there's going to be have a legal process to call for this process where we're going to create a trust fund to secure this investment. So if there's any problem, the trust fund will be there, some sort of a insurance and reinsurance that will secure this investment. And then it will also provide some additional incentives. There will be an incentive package. And the most important thing is that we will have the taxes for works modality for water availability to secure water for these projects.
And this will be taken also to the Amazon with a different system. We have planned developing in Ucayali 2 million hectares for forest plantations for commercial purposes, and we will be providing the property of the land to the investors to and give also the guarantee for that investment. The trust fund will be applied to this plantation that will be developed in the Amazonian region, and all this within the Ministry of Industry. And we believe that this will be launched in the next few months. We need to convince the Congress, and we will be ready in the following 3 months. And there is no doubt in those mining areas intervened by mining, there is a space for reservoirs, terraces, dams, and irrigation systems. We believe that we need to define the roles in the public and private sectors. For instance, you talked about dams. This is a role that belongs to the public sector. Completely. We can do that by taxes for work, but this is under the responsibility of the public sectors and the government to develop those. Also, it's a responsibility of the state to secure water. Irrigation systems as well, it is under the responsibility of the state, and we have an ambitious plan with the World Bank for irrigation system to get these techniques into the field, where it is difficult to develop plans that are sustainable for the state is in reforestation and in this key issue that are the terraces. The Inca and pre-Incas had inherited us 350,000 terraces. It's a great number of terraces. Most of them have been destroyed. They were destroyed, or the water sources is no longer productive. And out of these 340,000, we've has as a goal 150,000 terraces. We won't be doing this in this administration, but next July we will have these 4,000 hectares reclaimed. But we will be having this prepared for the next administration to continue with it. So we have identified, because of the complexity of executing of this, maybe some mining companies that are interested in this will be helping us in reclaiming these terraces, because this is something profitable for the society. All the local communities adore their terraces. This is something that they have as in their culture, and we will be vindicating the terraces for growing profitable projects in crops. For instance, last year, these native potato projects for imports, they have been imported as potato chips, these native potatoes, and we have discovered and found a large international market, a great market for these potato chips, and we've made a private investment. A private company has invested in $50 million for this potato chip plant, and we have another one that is going to invest as well on this same item. So this native potato that ensures 3 soles per kilo of this produce, it will become highly profitable with these terraces that will be reclaimed. So these are two things that we are interested in, to coordinate and work with mining companies to develop this jointly. All of the others, the irrigation systems and reservoirs, this is something that the Ministry of Agriculture or Ministry of Industry could develop with other economic activities. And this is basically all that I have for you today. And in the ministry, we always talk about the importance of water, but the importance of the opportunity to give water rights as well. And this is something highly criticized within the agricultural sector, if we need to develop when there is water scarcity, to give water between agriculture and mining, we need to give water to mining, because this is the activity that will give a larger cash flow to the country. And with that, we will be able to build this infrastructure to give water to the agriculture sector. Agriculture could wait, but a mining project cannot. So we need a change of this rational mindset change, that it's important. And we are supporting all the mining projects that we are getting. And this is, as I said, this is something important for the country, where we are going to prioritize a different use when they compete. If I need to give water to the mining sector or the population, yes, we need to give water to the population in that case. So mining is in our priority within economic activities in relation to water rights. As I said before, the better the mining activity, the better will be the agricultural sector and the country. Thank you very much for your invite. Thank you for this space, and we are here if you have any questions. Please, thank you very much.
Muy bien. Entonces, hemos tenido una.
So we have a very interesting presentation on water and the vision the current administration has on, first, regulation, that is a big challenge in the country. Secondly, the development of projects in coordination with the mining sector. That is one of the big elements, the driving forces, and I have personal experience on the importance of this mining sector in fostering projects in high lands, regions. And the last thing that it was mentioned about the priorities in terms of going forward. So these are my reflections on, these are very simple reflections. However, I would like to take them into consideration to now invite our panel members to this second part of this section so that they could present us some ideas and reflections on what our minister has talked about. I would like to invite Milagros Alvarado, External Relations Manager from Newmont, Peru. Please come up front. Mr. Aldo Suarez, Superintendent of Environment of Mining Company Antapaccay. Aldo, please come up front. And Mr. José Luis Calderón, Coordinator of Asociación Patas Projects. This is a project in the northern part of Peru, and they are working on agriculture and mining. Okay. So in this section, we have planned to have our panel members so that they could make some reflections on this matter. This section is related to green infrastructure in the mining and agriculture sectors in Peru. And within this context, we would like to hear from them some ideas on their own experiences in their activities and from the presentation by Mr. Minister. So we would like to talk about this. We will have 2 rounds of questions. Presentations of our panel members. And of course, if there are some questions, additional questions from their side, please, with the permission of the minister, we will do so. So I would like to ask Mrs. Milagros Alvarado to start her presentation, and we will ask our panel members to put together a couple of slides to focus on the ideas they would like to share with us today. So we will have visual aid on what they are talking about, and also to share their experience on the matter. Please, Milagro, go ahead. Can you hear me okay? Yes. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Minister, for your presentation, and thank you for the invite, and also Perumin. We would like to talk about the experience we are developing in Cajamarca that is related to what the ministry has talked about, the use of water, and how from Yanacocha we are understanding better, and this is a process that is not going to start and end now, but this is a process that will be coordinated not only with the government, but all the stakeholders around the territory. So yes, please. Thank you. Next slide, please. I wanted to start my presentation. The next slide, please, because I think you have skipped. Well, I wanted to share with you, as Mr. Minister has mentioned, water. It's a concept that united us in Cajamarca, and water storage is something key to Cajamarca. Currently, for 2024, sorry, Cajamarca has a population of 350,000 people. It had a demand of 631 liters per second, and it has only a storage capacity of 381 cubic liters. So we needed to improve the capacity of storage, but we don't have enough storage for the low rainy season. So we need to work on a solution, not a solution that it's simple. We have worked a solution with all the stakeholders, and one of the most important elements that the new Yanacocha models use is to have this basin model. The responsible use of water starts from basin concept, and we have proposed an articulated platform to work. I need to go back to the previous. Well, I continue speaking, okay? So this has taken us to a multi-agent platform where we promote different initiatives and also different actors or stakeholders. It has been mentioned, we've been working a proposal, a portfolio of projects to reduce this gap that I've already mentioned by developing different tubular wells and dams. And we have our own commitments required by the authority that is add on to this dynamic of gap filling or gap closing. And this is something that we have been developing for a long time. This green water project that it's been working for many years now and has planted 4 million plants in a large amount of hectares. This is a successful project. This is something that has history from the times of Porcón. Maybe many of you already know this beautiful forests developed in Cajamarca, Porcón. So this experience has been revamped. We've had 250,000 plantations or plants, and we've also an agreement with the Ministry of Agriculture. We are part of the program of forests. We have around 9 million soles with 4 organizations in Cajamarca on this, and we think this is important. It's not only about water infrastructure that we are promoting in Cajamarca, but we are also bringing different initiatives in that could add and give us a more complete or integrated solution. We can also add another actor, the different actors from the local and regional and public sectors. And we also have the Merece, that it's another initiative by the Ministry of the Environment that is highly associated, this retribution mechanism used to pay the sustainable payment of the use of water. So all these platforms that we have in Cajamarca allowed us to date to have this portfolio of projects, and this portfolio that we need to work within a short term. This is being developed in the short term by Taxes for Works. You can see the different allies. Last year we had with the Capatñac well to close the gap of 32 liters. So 30,000 families in Cajamarca already have water in Cajamarca, and through Taxes for Work with local governments, we will be building and closing the gap in the short term to have water access in Cajamarca for the end of 2027. So we need to underscore that we're not having a short-term approach, but a long-term approach, as it was mentioned, the importance of the dams. So what Mr. Minister has said, we are working in a coordinated manner, in a collaborative manner with the Ministry of Agriculture and Housing, and we are putting together this technical dossier. So for the next 4 years, we will have this Chonta Dam in Cajamarca, and this will allow us finally to this challenge of closing gaps will unify us, and Yanacocha, through water, they are meeting their goals and closing the gaps.
Gracias, Milagros.
Thank you, Milagros, for your presentation. Very interesting, the experience in Cajamarca. Well, let's continue. I would like then to give the floor to Aldo on his experience in Antapacay. Please, you have the floor. Something that you have addressed, Milagros, the closing the gap of water access, and also working together with the Ministry of Agriculture and Irrigation. Please go ahead, Aldo. Yes, thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. I really appreciate being here, and I would like to share the experience in Antapacay Mining Company on the consolidation of the water resource through trenches, and also in the collection of or capturing of CO2 or gas effect. This our project is located in Espinar province in the department of Cusco. Our project of afforestation started in 2011, and the goal of this was a global objective by the company to consolidate our water resource that is key in the province where we operate. Sorry, this is not the presentation. Oh, okay, yes. Thank you. Well, so I'm going to continue. Yes, please, let's have the correct slide for my presentation. Just a second. Okay, let's continue then. Yes, our afforestation company through infiltration trenches for the water harvesting and CO2 capturing. Next one, please. We are located, as I said, in the province of Espinar in the department of Cusco. Antapacay, it's a company that belongs to Glencore Group, and from 2011 we started our project of afforestation. This project is located within our effective area. The previous one, please. In the picture, you can see our forestation area, one of the areas because we have many of them. And at the back of the pictures, where you can see the mountains, we have our operation area. Our afforestation project is between the main elements, waste dumps and pits, and also the area where we have the tailings dam and the plants. And in the middle of these two elements, physically, we have our afforestation area. And this is an example that you can see, that you can touch, where mining and agriculture are compatible. That mining and afforestation are compatible, that mining and biodiversity are compatible, that mining and the appropriate use of the water resources, specifically in this area that is highly complex to get water to the high levels of the highlands during the rainy and dry seasons. And we have utilized through this project of trenches that go through the area, respecting the topography of the area, to capture or collect the water during the rainy season, and this will be infiltrated and seep and will recharge or refill our aquifers that finally are sources of water that could be used in the sector. The other portion of water that is used for the afforestation project comes from our mining operation. We, as operation, we use the contact water, the raining water that come into contact with the operation and waste dumps, and through that contact, for us, it's a contact water. This is how we call it, and we treat that water. And these waters are taken to a treatment plant for excess water, and these are treated, and finally they are discharged and distributed again to the natural system, because we are surrounded by two rivers, the Salado and Cañipía rivers. And at the same time, we use part of this water to use it in this afforestation project, specifically, or in its majority, during the dry season. So we have this infiltration for the natural refilling of the aquifers, and this allows the project to not only to have an environmental management of water, but also social, from the social perspective. The ones that operate from the infiltration trenches, the maintenance, the stewardship, the pruning, and sells us the small plants, the coye, that is a native tree that is resistant to high temperatures that we have in Espinar, less than 10 degrees centigrade. So they support us in this whole system. So this also promotes and helps us the local dynamic of the province, because we will use local labor and we will also use community companies, and they also will learn from all this, not only for the company, we as a company, but also for the surrounding community. This learning will allow for us in a second stage, because the first stage that we have is to project this for afforestation up to 2030 to reach 725 hectares of these plants. We have so far we have afforested 188 hectares, 227,000 plants planted. So this is a win-win situation. The efficient use of water, the capture of carbon, that is also a corporate commitment by Glencore to have a net zero by 2050 in the generation of carbon dioxide and also carbon, and also to promote a local diversity, because these spaces promote, increase both the wealth or the richness of the flora and fauna. And in Antapacay, we are always committed to the sustainable development. All of our activities are in balance with the social, economic, and environmental aspects. Thank you. Thank you, Aldo. Interesting your experience. Your infiltration trenches project is not that much disseminated. It's just not yet completely understand. And now let's have Jose. You have your presentation now. So after Jose Luis' presentation, we will ask the minister to make some comments on what our panel members have commented to make this meeting more dynamic. Can you hear me better now? Yes? Okay. So first of all, I really appreciate this opportunity to be able to be here and to share with you some important experiences, and in that way to contribute with what is being addressed today. I belong to Asociación Patas. This is an NGO. It's an initiative of Minera Poderosa Mining Company. We manage their portfolio of projects, and we talk about a project, yes, specifically, personally, to me, coming from the agricultural sector, I am really moved and excited with this, because we can talk a lot about what we have done. But the only thing that I will add to what has been proposed, we have the participation of the agricultural exporters through the Danper company, and I'm going to explain how we got there. This is a project led by Poderosa Mining Company, and they agreed with one of their communities. Around Poderosa, we have 4 communities, and this community shared that they have problems with the with water, and they work in dry season, and they wanted to have water guarantee for the works. So they reached an agreement, and first of all, after checking and verifying 2 important things, I believe: one, the legal certainty of the land, and this community have everything in order in that matter, but not in the rest of the territory. So I'm going to dare to propose, or maybe to ask the minister afterwards to tell us. They've been a big effort by the in the country to work on this legal certainty in the land, in the properties. Sometimes this could hinder us and may raise the costs if I need to go through that area and do some activities. So this is something that we need to include in the agenda, because this is important, this legal certainty. And then when we talk about the project, we knew where the source was, River Almacén, but when you start talking with the rest of the community or colleagues of other companies, and they wanted to assist not only for irrigation works, but agricultural activities, we find another problem. We don't have updated water inventory. This is a second problem. So I would like to share in the agri-exporting sector. They are interested in working with this because the underground water is highly stressed. So some years ago, some of the things they worked together in alliance with the National Authority of Water. I understand that they already reached an agreement, and we would like to do the same. How we collaborate with the National Water Authority to have an inventory that is updated in the water resources. We need to update this information and check what is going on with our water sources, and to be able to support these large projects. So in this case, in our case, this was not a problem. So Poderosa started to promote this alliance with the local government. So we allied with the state, and we propose a mechanism that we're working on right now. These are taxes for works. So I'm present you this first taxes for work. This was the first irrigation project where we provide water to this Chuquitambo community. And because law requires to be efficient in the use of water, the second stage of the project was to have this technified irrigation. But this was mainly for the basket produce on at the first stage. And we were talking amongst all the allies, and we were focusing on including products for exports. So we started with avocado. We had an area that produced very well avocado. We identified this, and in the regional government started to have this relationship with Damper. We started to talk with Damper, and because they had some problems to get more lands in growing their lands for their crops, they started to look at the inter-Andean valleys, and we are located precisely there. So we had a whole process. Could you please change the slide? And we started to put together an agreement and start working with Damper. And we as a specialist and community in Asociación Patas, we started to get all this information and start working with all this information. And we started to have interns with Damper. We have knowledge transfer for one side, and even if we we are willing to work with the agricultural sector friends, the commercial trade side of things, it's sometimes difficult. And because I come from the agro-exporting sector, is the capacity of managing the market. They manage markets from around the world. So I think that all that experience is something valuable. This will be the third axis, and to support us, and we've been able to have the support, to give the support for farmers to have a good product, but we stuck in the commercial side of things. So we could get a great alliance with this. So 3 years from now, we want to have the export of these products. Another taxes for work project that is the bridge of Lavancen, about connectivity. Without this bridge and this road that is underway, we will not be able to get the production, because we need to take this out very carefully. This is what we wanted to share with you. Thank you very much.
Interesante. La experiencia, el tema del saneamiento.
The importance about legal certainty, the inventory of water sources, and this new experience with damper, with small farmers, such an interesting topic. Well, now I'm going to give the floor to the minister to give his experience and his perspective. You have provided an overview of the whole country, and you also mentioned where mining could support and work together with the agriculture. I think that, now it's the mining sector has the responsibility also. It's not that they are helping or supporting. I think it's part of their obligation to work with the water users that they have around in their areas of operation. And I don't know, Mr. Minister, if you have something to add. Yes, thank you. Peru is a country that is so water resource heavy. If the Ministry of Agriculture would like to serve everyone at the same time, it would be impossible. The budget would completely get diluted. So at the beginning of our administration, we established 3 priorities. One is water infrastructure, storage, detouring, distribution of water. And then formalization, title deeds. 3 major priorities: water, title deeds, and markets. So water, I already explained. We have 25 major irrigation projects that we would like to have implemented by next year, either with the agreement signed or underway. For title deeds and ownership, in the next 12 months, we should deliver over 100,000 title deeds. This is 3 times what the ministry has done before. So we have tripled the work done by the ministry in terms of formalization. And then also we are formalizing the native communities at a rate of 60 per year. We still have over 500 of them, but we have provided title deeds for 60 communities a year. And then markets, of course, it's important because we believe that the markets that are open, it's easy because we need to sign agreements. With Brazil, we just signed a protocol for strawberries to get in. Puno is producing a lot of strawberries that are going to be exported to Brazil in the upcoming months. And so we need to open the markets, country by country. And this is fundamental, not only for the big companies, but also for small farmers, because the small farmers in the country, they are exporting coffee, cocoa, avocado, mango, banana. In the north, pecans, chestnuts, golden pineapple, some citrus, dragon fruit, granadilla, turmeric. Small farmers and producers in all of the regions of Peru are exporting, and in the past few years, this has completely exploded. That's why when we open markets, we are also talking about markets for small farmers, and these were our 3 priorities: water, title deeds, and markets. And these, of course, without prejudice to the fact that we can also focus on, accompaniment in a specific region. The ministry has a strong, a big strength when it combines water, basin and water resource management, productive management, title deed, delivery, articulation with the markets. It has a huge impact. But whenever we focus our actions, the problem in the past few decades is that the ministry wants to serve everyone, and it, of course, dilutes all of its capacity. It dilutes its capacity, and it's downsized to the minimum. That's why there is a big opportunity of relating mining projects and to definitely focus what the ministry can do. I think there is a big opportunity, and of course this can be done through agreements and contracts. And certainly we have made a lot of progress in the past 12 months. But of course, we're certainly worried about the fact that we are entering the electoral period. We want for the new administration to continue the many good things that have been done so far. And that's why we are going to make it formalized and institutionalized. Two entities that are important, SENASA, to keep on opening markets. We are now legally modifying for the current head of SENASA, who is very good, a world-class professional, will stay for the next 5 years. It doesn't matter which administration, they cannot remove her from her position so that she can give continuity. And then ANA, we have the head of the ANA here with us, the Water Authority. They have done a lot of progress. They have done a lot of efforts to unlock many of these projects, among them the mining projects. And definitely in the next few months, they will unlock this huge portfolio of mining projects, I'm sure. And he's also going to stay for the next 5 years. That is going to be our contribution to make it more stable. And then I think we still have 10 more months to work, to sign agreements, to add the private sector, to all of these activities, and to really use this mechanism that we have, because the Ministry of Agriculture hasn't done any effort in the past few years for getting more taxes for works for taxes. We are now going to issue the first 2 billion soles on taxes, works for taxes, and that is going to be key because it's going to be a game changer. In the next few years, the ministry will probably have 5 or 6 billion soles to do works for taxes, and that is going to be key to support these mining projects, or maybe projects in other sectors that are just as important. Of course, I would like to congratulate the many experiences, productive development that many of the mining companies have accomplished, the formal, I have to say, formal companies, of course. We do have a problem of informality that is big, that is destructive, and we need to see how we definitely remove it, because it is a big risk. And then also this possibility of communicating all of these contributions, the productive development. I think this is important. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Minister. So to continue with our panel, in this water forum, I would like to give the floor to Mrs. Milagro so that she can tell us, give her comments and her feedback on what the minister said, and if she would like to add something more. I think it was very valuable. I just wanted to talk about Cajamarca's experience. First, we think that governance is important. Without an adequate governance, without a key stakeholders, I think it's very unlikely that the goal will be sustainable. In Cajamarca, water unites us. The motto in Cajamarca is everyone united for Cajamarca. And water, I think, has been the uniting factor. The academia, the public sector, the private sector, and all of the organizations are united because the gap in terms of access to water is big. And I think that's one important point. Also, Yanacocha's experience is not just one specific experience with one community. It actually encompasses the whole region of Cajamarca, especially the province of Cajamarca. And so it's a basin-based approach. It's not just one project or one community. We're not only thinking about the water that we need for recovery, but it's just, this is the work that we do in operations, but we also have a management model that seeks for the development of the territory. A third element that I wanted to add is public-private articulation, the need of using instruments that could be very powerful, like the works for taxes. I talked about this very in a perfunctory manner, but we need to do this, more of these. Also, the construction of the Chonta Dam, this is also done through a very interesting mechanism as the G2G. But I have to mention this because it's not only works for taxes, but we also have another interesting mechanism which is called Merece, and it can also be used, and it's added to the experience. And then finally, I just want to finish by saying that we have learned that infrastructure, the construction of infrastructure, gray infrastructure, is important. It's relevant. But if this comes along with nature-based solutions, I think it will make it a lot more stronger and more powerful. Thank you. Yeah, Cajamarca's experience is great. I have been in Cajamarca, and I just talked to a colleague yesterday in a meeting, and he was telling me it's raining terribly in Cajamarca. In Cajamarca, it's 1,300 millimeters a year, and in Tacna and Moquegua doesn't even get to a tenth of that. So definitely, there is water. Cajamarca as a city should have a world-class water treatment system. For instance, rainfall, harvesting system, rainfall water system. I don't know, Aldo, if you have something else to mention from what you heard from the minister in your presentation. Yes, as the minister said, of course, there are roles that pertain to the government, but there are also other goals or the roles that can be led by the private sector. And I think, some of these examples are the ones that we saw and that we shared with you. There are several examples of these. We feel very proud of being able to have this forestation project. This is one first stage, really. We're doing this within our property and within our area of operation, but also we definitely need to learn from our experience. We need to learn from our social environment. We're already talking also and having discussions so that we can take these to other areas so that these can be replicated and other projects can be done, not only within the areas of operation or areas of concession, where we already saw that it is feasible to have a socially, environmentally manageable project, but this can be replicated somewhere else. And as I said, this is a win-win. Afforestation, carbon harvesting, sequestering, definitely these are projects that will allow us to be one step ahead in the development of sustainability. It is very important. All of these work definitely are part of what is known as water stewardship. This is a concept that has been applied in modern mining, and definitely water stewardship implies working together so that it is all feasible and profitable, but also environmentally friendly. Please, if you can give us some final comments. Yes, thank you. One of the main experiences that I have been able to have throughout my professional career and the possibility of being in almost all of the regions in the country where I have worked is that realities are different and the stakeholders also are different, and they have different, sizes. We have big companies, smaller companies, medium-sized companies, and all of them within their own environment, which may be smaller or bigger, are trying. They're trying to contribute and to work hard. And that's why meetings like this, where we can actually listen to the experiences of all our colleagues and everything that it's been done, are useful to pick the best of the experiences, the best of the ideas. I mean, not everything will be replicable. What we have, included here, maybe other things can happen, but I think that we should take advantage of all of these experiences. What I like about SUNAS, the water regulator, is that once a year they gather all of their entities to do benchmarking. We have asked to support the JASS, which are the water boards. And then, they discuss, they exchange ideas and experiences. And I think this is very important. We should promote this more, not only within the sector, but I think someone else that has been asking for this, and I'm saying this because I've done it, it's the agro exporting business. They value the experience of the mining sector. They now have a sustainability community, and 2 of the 5 areas, one is community relations and the other one is works for taxes. But they are wanting to know more about this, so they want to have experiences, share experiences with us. So maybe we can find spaces where we can do this so that we can actually do something more with the agricultural sector. Thank you. I think we have 10 more minutes. Maybe if my friend and former student, right, Vinio, it gives me some time to comment. The idea that, mining can generate very interesting territorial and land development. And yesterday, what I was listening to in a presentation, mining has the capacity to, be leading edge, to use leading edge technologies, sensors and prognosis instruments. But if around a mining operation you have farmers that are still using water with a 20% efficiency, of course we're not creating solutions. We're creating problems. We're rather creating problems. We need to actually help to develop these kind of solutions. And also this concept of water stewardship is very important, especially with an administration that will have this perspective. I think that, when the minister said you need to prioritize, we need to prioritize between an agriculture project or a mining project, has to be the mining project, because the mining project generates the resources that then the agricultural sector can use. And then something else I think that we need to work on is the efficient use of, investment. We need to work on in efficiency, efficient investment in local governments as well as in regional governments. I think that this is something that's very important. And then something else, as you mentioned, in terms of regulation, we need to increase regulation, yes, but also we need to look at irrigation efficiency. If we have a very low irrigation efficiency, as we've always had 30%, that means that 70% of the water that is being audited or overseen is going to be wasted and gone away. So we need to look at efficiency. It has to go from 30 to 35 or 40% efficiency so that we can actually use the water that is being regulated and overseen, so that we have agriculture that is world class. These are just comments that I wanted to share. Thank you very much for your presence here today. Thank you to the minister because he stayed here all the session. Thank you for the panel members for sharing their experiences with us. And of course, we still have this idea, right? We have the possibility. We can work. We have the different mechanisms. Works for taxes. We have community relations or community engagement. We have ownership and the legal certainty. We have water recycling and reuse and deforestation systems to develop green infrastructure that is very important. Thank you very much. That's all for me. Thank you, Vinio. Thank you, everyone. I will now give the floor to Vinio so that he can close the session. Thank you very much, Minister, panel members. Thank you very much. I just want to say that the program continues. Please do not leave us, do not abandon us. We have a very, very nice end of the day, a last session. We're just going to have a coffee break, but before going to the coffee break, we need to take a group picture, the mandatory group picture, please. Thank you. You are now dismissed to go and have a coffee. We will resume at 4:15. 4:15. Thank you very much.
Dime, querida. Ok. Perfecto, está funcionando.
Okay, perfect. It's working. You never know which works, which is not working. I think we are being tested here. Well, good morning, good afternoon again. Welcome again to our last but important section of this day. In this section, we will be discussing the mining role in the financial innovation and strategic management of water resource. And before presenting Mr. Belisario Moran, I want to say first that this topic was put together by Fabi and myself with a lot of care and love. Why? Because you know that sustainable development for me is the same thing. Sustainable, we have one word for sostenible, sustentable in Spanish. So it has these three elements, the social, environmental, and the economic elements, that it should be best economic and financial aspects. So we know the first two, the social and the environmental components. However, we are not able to reach that sustainability without the financial component, the economic financial element. So I was really interested in the initiative by COFIDE. So we are privileged to have Mr. Belisario Moran with us. He is the sub-manager of structural management of balance in COFIDE. This is the mezzanine bank or the second floor bank, or isn't? Well, you will explain it better or clarify it better, Belisario. This has become different thing. He is an economist by the Universidad Católica de Peru. He has a master's degree in finance by Universidad del Pacífico, and he's been over 15 years in the banking system in Peru and has worked in Banbif, in Pichincha Bank and Bank of China. And he's been working in the market risk, pure finance, right? And COFIDE is in charge of the long-term and medium-term fund through a green, sustainable, and blue activities, and in the local market, capital markets and national markets. And he also leads an investment portfolio of sustainable bonds. So I invite Mr. Moran to deliver his presentation. And it's a very simple methodology on this section. So we will have a panel and will be moderated by Fabi Cifuentes and with Mr. Moran's intervention. Thank you very much. Welcome, Mr. Moran. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this invite, first of all, to Perumin event. And what I'm going to talk about, it's a little bit about Cofide's experience on the emission of a blue bond that we did last year in September. And I would like you to put you into what Confide is, context. This is the Development Bank of Peru. It has 54 years of old. It is 44 years old. We channel resources through the municipal banks to mostly the beneficiaries that are the small and medium-sized companies or enterprises for clean energy, like solar panels, wind energy. An additional business line in Cofide is what we call productive investment, and it's mainly about financing agro-exporting companies. And an additional business line, it's corporate bonds portfolio. Vinio mentioned it before, around $750 million. It's the third part has a label, and I will be talking about this later. So these are the main business lines of these assets of Cofide. We have around 2 billion soles on this front. In liabilities, we are highly dynamic in the local capital and international market. Our funds come mainly from this market capital locally and from abroad. From the external markets, we have $1.2 billion in bonds, $700 million as a label. So we go out to the international market with 700 million with a sustainable bond. Last year we have a social bond accounting for $300 million, and the characteristics of these labeled or earmarked bonds got to do with the funds, and I will dive into details later. So I wanted to put you in some context and to all be in the same page of what Cofide is in size and where we heading at with these products and where we get our funds from. And having said this, I'm going to talk about the emission of a blue bond, a thematic bond, and the issuance of this. And these thematic bonds require mainly two previous documents. One, the framework of thematic bonds, where you include a list and of the details of those labeled bonds that have a specific funds, like this blue bond specifically. And this needs to make reports depending on the duration of the issuance. For instance, a 5-year issuance, you need to make 5 reports where we need to demonstrate for a sustainable issuance internationally. As I mentioned before, the use of those funds, the use of these resources have been invested, for instance, for clean energy, solar panels, or wind energy that I mentioned before, that are the projects that we have from our credit portfolio and also for sustainable bonds portfolio, as I said. Within this thematic bond portfolio, we need to have another document. This is a second opinion document, a second party opinion. And this document is worked with a third party. It is not the one present during the issuance of the blue bonds, but they validate that the company that will go out to the capital market to issue this bond is able to meet all the characteristics within the products they manage. So to go out to the international capital market, we have these two documents. We also have these thematic bonds, but to go out to the international debt market, we needed to make it more robust, more sound, and this issuance of thematic bonds, and this document is the one that we need for this blue bond issuance. So after this introduction, I'm going to dive into the background information. So we have this gap of water that exists. Over 3 million inhabitants do not access to potable water, and over 7 million do not access sewage. And based on this gap, together with two institutions besides COFIDE Water.org, it's an NGO related to water, and the FEDMAC, that is the Federation of Saving Banks and Credit Organizations. We started in 2024, an issuance that we finally did last September last year through the municipal saving banks. They will issue a bond, and this will get to the final beneficiaries with a blue initiative related to water, improvement of their toilets. In some cases, some families have silos, and we work through this blue bond to finance fair toilets, or toilets with dignity, as we call it, and also elevated tanks as well. And we have a visit that we will see in brief, and this is where we go out to the capital market last year, September. So the first initiative is related to the water gap. So this shows the results of this issuance. There is something key that I always underscore. Is the contract with Water.org and FEDMAC and COFIDE is related to the fact that COFIDE is a recurrent issuer in the local market. We already had the documents for a labeled issuance. So this is something that is well seen in the market. We went out with 100 million soles to the market with a rate of with 4.72% in interest rate. And because we made a spread to the saving banks, and through that rate, they will give the loans to the end beneficiaries. And when we went out to the market, there were around 9 billion soles already disbursed in 2019, 2020. And what we did was to finance, again, new initiatives, new credits. And up to date, we are talking about 1.3 billion soles. So an important thing to mention here is the spread. When you normally go out to the market locally or abroad, with an issuance, you need to check your point of reference. For a local issuance within 1 year in soles, the reference point is how much a deposit certificate is paid by the central bank. So we had 15 basic points, 0.15%, regarding the reference of the central bank. It's a very adjusted spread. And now the issuance on the previous weeks are around 40, 45 basic points of spread. This includes the credit qualifications of the issuers and also the situation of the cash of the system. So as we see, the AFPs, the Pension Fund Association, they have this appetite with this AIDS withdrawal recently announced. So this is what we saw. As we can see here, the AFPs, the pension funds, had over 42% of the demand. We had an oversize of 2.17, and the AFPs, the pension funds, was a relevant actor within our activities. So we are always looking for the appetite they have, where they want to put to have a demand, a point for this issuance. This is just a snapshot of the result of that issuance. On this slide, we show on the right-hand side a graphic how what I mentioned since May last year among these three actors, COFIDE, FEPMAC, and We went out to the market in September last year, and something that I underscore is the good coordination between these three players or parties. It was very positive. An option maybe would have been one of these saving banks, where the resources went, and this finally went to the final beneficiaries, went out to the market. There is an effect why COFIDE is the one going out to the market and not them directly. COFIDE has a better credit level, and it has the documents that I mentioned and the thematic bond, and it's easier for them to work with this. And they've been working on this already, and some are already issuing in a labeled manner to strengthen their wealth, and some subordinated green emissions that issuance, that have resources like clean energy, as I mentioned. So our role from COFIDE as a development bank is to complement the private banking system, but not to compete to just fill this business sector, and to support the private sector when they do not have this big appetite to come in, and they want to be involved in a project related to infrastructure, for instance. It is important to measure the impact of these initiatives. I previously mentioned that the amount worked with the savings banks and water org was 9 billion soles and 1 billion soles, and now we are 1.9 billion soles, and part of these resources was for the rural region. And this is something that I didn't mention before. Mainly the destination of these credits were for the rural areas or peri-urban areas. Over 80% for provinces, and there is a more detailed data where we saw that around 50% of financial inclusion, and this is executed through the final beneficiaries get a credit from the financial system through the savings banks. Regarding lessons learned, I think this is something relevant to share with you. The coordination that I previously mentioned amongst these three actors or players, COFIDE, Water Org, and FEDMAC. Something that is important when you're going to go out with an issuance is to know who will be buying the bond you will be issuing, and what is the term that they are wishing to acquire based on the funds and cash they have at that moment. So I want to tell you something. When we were about to make this issuance, we were thinking in a longer period of time. We wanted a 3-year period. We had a financial incentive to do that. But when we touch base with the AFP, the pension funds, the insurance companies, the main holders of COFIDE's products, they wanted a shorter term. This is why we went out with a 1-year period, and this is something that I recommend you to do. This is something mandatory, because in some cases where this hasn't been done, from market experiences, there could be a low demand of the issuance you're going to be making, because if you have a higher demand, you will be able to adjust better the interest rate. One thing that I would like to mention as well is the awareness raising and the commitment of the sales force. This is not COFIDE per se, but it is something that we did with Water Org and FEDMAC. There was an incentive for the representatives of those who need to go longer distances versus other products that the saving banks have, because the final credit went finally to rural areas and peri-urban areas. So there was an incentive to compensate for these representatives for the products of the saving banks on these improvements of the toilets. Before continuing with this slide, one relevant thing that I want to mention is these thematic issuances have a transactional cost. In addition to, well, I mentioned two things, the second party opinion and the thematic bonds. So you would say that this extra work would have somehow a compensation. So I could go out to the capital market with a corporate bond or a senior bond and to make use of the same bonds through a thematic bond issuance. But beside a reputational aspect, a company makes issuance related to sustainability. There are other funds or investors that have mandates with a preset requirements that their bond needs to have a specific a share or specific bonds. So this, when you are making an issuance, allows you to adjust the rate. So the $1 million question you ask is, how many basic points of discount you will get if I make a thematic bond compared to not doing something like that. So we have a greenium concept. This greenium concept is a little bit difficult to define. This issuer needs to come out at the same date, at the same currency, at the same time, with a non-thematic and a thematic issuance, and this could make possible the comparison. This is not something that could be done empirically, but you have an estimate in a different of time. It will go through a thematic issuance around 3-4 basic points, having this better books to make a better adjustment on the rate. So in this slide, what you see, additional lessons learned, the experience of COFIDE in local market capital market, sorry. So we are the first issuer of thematic bonds in the country. It's not that large, but we have issued over 700 million soles, and these account for over 50% of all the thematic issuances in the local market. What else do we have? Well, what I've mentioned, how we read the market in relation to the investors and the key element of the three key parties of the issuance of this blue bond. So this is a little bit of what we did last year, but we are in Perumin and we need to land this on the impact in the mining sector. So I think that water is a key factor. It's shown and proven in all the previous fora. This is something evident. And the idea is how to engage project or involve project related to water through financial innovation. We could have this labeled financial bonds and to engage all the stakeholders, because we have a lot of challenges to convince on the mining initiatives where you have relevant factors of water, of initiatives like Cerro Verde, where they did PETAR the projects, these wastewater treatment plants, to make awareness this kind of projects. So I think that from COFIDE and the mining sector, this is something that it's easily executed, and we need to go to all the interests of all the sectors. So from COFIDE, I think that we could provide added value in water management in this mining sector, in thematic issuances, Through the documentation I already mentioned and channeling these resources to the sector, we could provide technical assistance to the sector that the same companies will have these label thematic issuances, either the local or foreign markets. There is experiences from Chilean companies with these thematic issuances, with bonuses or bonds related to water, and also the reputation aspect that I mentioned before. Besides a difference in the interest rate in this label funding, in this case blue funding, this is a well-seen reputation in the market, a company that not only execute projects that are related to water, but the obtention of these resources to come from these labeled issuance, and I think that that will give an added value. I mentioned Cerro Verdes with La Enlosada and La Tomilla. I think that it's important to use these resources through labeled issuances that will give more relevance in the use of these funds, not only the project, but this is something that could be highly relevant. Another type of bond, these are sustainability-related bonds that they have a specific characteristic. They are born with a commitment with some indicators, and in complying these indicators, they will keep mainly the interest rate. If they don't comply with what was set forth during the issuance with these indicators, there is an increase of the issuance rate. A company A could issue at 5% below a specific threshold. If this is not complied, this 5% rate could be increased 5.25, 5.50%. So this tool, this mechanism is very positive, but it requires a commitment and make sure that we are able to comply with the indicators set forth. We are looking at this financial role. Financial innovation as a catalyst by COFIDE. So the thematic issuances that the mining companies could do and the resources that COFIDE could channel, and we could also contact and make contact and add value in financing startups that are related to projects where water technology developments are involved. So we have in COFIDE an innovation and development department where we could do this kind of financing, looking for value in this type of projects related to water. So I wanted to share this with you on this issue of thematic bonds, what we have done with COFIDE, within the market, a local market, and how within the mining industry we could find an articulating element amongst the private sector, public sector, and we need to incorporate or include this actor for them to witness the use of this, like Petard project, will add a value and will be well received so that this kind of initiatives are sustainable over time. Thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias, Belisario. Gracias.
Thank you very much, Belisario.
Thank you, Belisario. And especially this huge potential that we have, huge gap that exists, of course, not only in water and sanitation, but, all of the issues that this leads to. Ladies and gentlemen, I will introduce Engineer Fabiola Cifuentes. She is Deputy or Vice President of Planning and Strategy and Environmental Strategy. So they changed my position too, and I changed yours. I'm sorry. You will moderate this panel. Thank you, Vinio. We are in the last stretch of this day that has been quite long and also very productive. I think that there have been quite interesting discussions. This morning, this afternoon, they have been loaded with information for everyone who has participated. Now, I would like to invite the discussion panel. I would like to invite Mrs. Ulrike Broschek, please, Deputy Manager of Sustainability of Fundación Chile. She will talk about the analysis of what we have heard and then also some questions. I would like to invite Vinio Flores. I would also like to invite Mr. Ronald Giese, General Manager of the Center of Research for Water from Dresde, and Mr. Oliver Waman, the Manager of Advisory and Social Environmental Solutions.
Yo creo que depende del tiempo.
We will see how much time we have, and we will.
Si podemos, mira, idealmente vamos a hacer.
Ideally, we're going to have a round of, questions and answers and comments, and then it would be great if we can have time to open the floor for discussion for the audience to ask questions. Thank you for the suggestion. If time permits, we will do so.
Entonces, con las rondas de comentarios, empezamos con.
So we will start with the comments. Vinio, we start with you. Do you have a pen or a paper or something? You're good? A pen. I could use a pen. Thank you.
En base a la presentación que hemos visto hace un rato.
Based on the presentation that we heard from Belisario, and also the challenges that we've seen this morning about climate change and illegal mining, and about the challenges that we have as a, territory, and we were talking about different territorial spaces, places where there is drought or excess of water. What are the strategies you think we have or you suggest, besides the huge opportunity that COFIDE brought? What are the, options to fund water management projects? Because we definitely need to do it vis-a-vis the climate change and the hydrometeorological phenomena that we see every day. Sorry, microphone is not working. Oh, great, it's working. Fabi, I do think that this is a test question from Professor Nicolas de Pierola. Anyway, first things first. Not all of the impacts of climate change and all of these hydroclimate events are negative. Not all of them, I think. Some of them are positive. When we had the Niño, the mega Niño in 1983, 1984, obviously it caused wreck and destruction everywhere. I was driving from Lima to Tumbes. There was no road, no highway, nothing. Everything was destroyed. But we had 7 years of lakes and lagoons for animal husbandry. It was amazing. Now, with climate change, and it's really interesting because I was at the National Botanical Garden in Washington, and I was there in a conference talking about, climate change and plants. So I think that also there are some areas that benefit from climate change. Obviously, there's also very negative impacts, like health and security. So that causes a risk because there's uncertainty. that comes with it. And I am pretty sure that people who do financial issuances and emissions, they do need to include this risk because there's uncertainty, especially more so with climate change than with the Niño phenomenon, because the Niño phenomena, they have been studied for some time now. And there's a certain pattern, even though, there are some unrelated, factors, but it's relatively easy to estimate. But with climate change, it's harder. So there's uncertainty. But just like we do with any kind of project, we need to do a series of analyses. We need to have a series of scenarios and then look for an estimation. Because climate change and water resources like runoff, for instance, it doesn't change sometimes with climate change. I will give you more stats. The mean, it doesn't change the mean, but it does change the standard deviation. So it's, it's more frequent. Runoff is more frequent. The highs, the ups and downs are more profound and more aggressive, if you want. But it is a reality that we need to deal with. And I am pretty sure that Belisario also, you have done all of these risk analyses. And I think that before these challenges that we have, or the challenges that we have before us, we need to educate ourselves, because we're going to do forecasts to 30 years. And everything is changing, and there is no straight line here. There's lines that cross each other. You can see this in 2024. We reached 1.6 that we were talking about this morning. This year it's slightly lower, and doesn't necessarily have to be higher. So I think this kind of analysis that is so important to have. To have the academia doing this kind of analysis, that's also important. Sometimes we just neglect these, major 4 areas: civil society, private sector, public sector, and the academia. And, we sometimes neglect the academia. They can help. They can help estimate. They can help develop statistics, more thinking of the long term, not so much in the short term. We're talking about tens of years. I'll stop here. I'll stop it there, Fabi, and then I will continue in the second iteration. Thank you, Minio. This question is for Ulrike. Earlier today, we saw a presentation from you about how, through the Fundación Chile Foundation, you have been addressing some of the challenges that Chile faces about availability of water, and how you have, generated more resources, and how you have done it in a more suitable way, and not just by, quick fixing or doing something that may stick or not. You are doing it, depending on the situation, depending on the project, depending on the basing, and depending on the ecosystem. You also showed us a curve that says, you have to work in a very specific way. And opportunities, like Belisario mentioned. But in my opinion, we still need to have these data, so that all of these projects that could be done, and then private sector, of course, will generate it, but we need to link it with the other stakeholders. And in order to do that, we need information. We need scientific data that will help us do the right thing, because dams are not good for everyone, or dikes, or not everything is good for everyone. So based on your experience, what are the lessons learned that you can share with us?
Fundación como Fundación Chile en el Perú.
It would be, we were talking, some of us, during the break, it would be great to have something like Fundación Chile here that is funded by the private sector, by different entities that will help us to give us, experts that will help us solve many of the issues that Peru has. It will be more direct. So what are the lessons learned that you can share with us? Thank you, Fabiola. Well, it has been a long process, really. We have been working for 8 years under this initiative, and it's a process that has changed, the technical rigor along with standardization between the different stakeholders, and this, co-creation with all of the actors, so that we can streamline and unlock this, inertia that we have in Chile. We have very little implementation of solutions. We have many, many diagnoses. We say that we are overdiagnosed. We have needs analysis and diagnosis, but then we are just stuck with proposals. We don't take the next step to implementation. So it's, we have many lessons learned, but if I could share some, it's first, there's no unique solutions. We have always talked about desalination, water corridors, I don't know, many things. But then looking at the territories, we realize that there's no one size fits all that we can just copy paste in every region. Rather, we need to have a combination. And that combination has to be studied. We have to look at the cost-benefit analysis too. Now, this comes, of course, by giving a cross-cutting basin perspective. Because if I just do it as a company or as a sector, or just as one, industry, sometimes the solution will be a different one. Maybe it's not the best one for the whole of the problem. And sometimes my solution will be conflicting with somebody else, or my solution, which is positive for me, will create a negative impact for somebody else. Or it could happen also that one solution that is proposed, like the recharge of aquifers, at the point where we do the recharge, I don't see the benefit for me, because that recharge will benefit downstream. It's not for me. It's not profitable for me. Or if I don't know, reuse domestic waters at one point, that is going to help the water company, that is going to be discharged downstream. It's not going to help the company deliver more water to people. So, I think that the best and most cost-effective solutions that we see is they're not always the ones that are more profitable, if we look at it individually. And that is a challenge, because if it's not profitable individually, it's harder for everyone to be on board. We need collaboration. We need that collective perspective. And the collection of solutions will be the ones that will provide water security to the territory. Because one sector will benefit the basin, and then it will be benefited through a swap or a desalinizing plant somewhere else that will, be paid off by this collaboration. So I think that is very challenging, and that also means that it implies coordination. This project implied a lot of coordination between many sectors, and of course a systemic perspective, and that has to be done by the authority also. The authority is the one that has an objective look and all of the measurements, and include all of the stakeholders to provide the guidelines and to know where exactly the solutions should be and the investments. But we cannot ask the companies to do this individually. We cannot ask for a company or a private sector to do all of that coordination to implement a project that will actually benefit the territory and not them individually. But if I saw that if the company does it because they want it, that's great. You cannot mandate that to every single company and all of the users, water users. So, this coordination is very important, and it has to come from the state. It has to come from the government. The government has to go from a regulatory role to a more steward role, the stewarding role. And then maybe the banks or, through different mechanisms, they can help. But the government has to provide the guarantees. So I think it's many lessons. Another lesson I think that I can share is, now, I don't want to go against the engineers. Of course, I know that there's a lot of engineers here, so, but we, I think, have given very little space for nature-based solutions, and I think that they are having a very interesting impact worldwide, wherever they are being implemented. So I think we need to take a look at that. As engineers, we need to also incorporate nature-based solutions because they could be very big works. In Lima, I know that there is a project in the Munas that has contributed to drinking water in the city. So I think that these are quite, interesting solutions with a big reach. Thank you, Ulrike. And then this question is for Ronald Giese. Ronald is a representative of the partner country in Perumin. And Ronald, I have a question and also an explanation from you very rapidly. Maybe you can tell us briefly what is Dresde, what is it about, so that everybody understands. And my question to you, based on your experience, is in your opinion, how is it possible to develop good practices? How is it possible to develop sustainable projects in places where conditions are not necessarily the most adequate ones? Thank you. Well, greetings first from Germany. It's a joy and a privilege to be here, sharing not only the German experience, but the experience of the last 7 or 8 years that I've had the pleasure and the opportunity of, sharing with my Peruvian colleagues here. And precisely what you were asking about, Fabiola, how to take science into rural practice. And I would also like to thank Belisario very much. He had to look at rurality and getting the support and financial support. And it turns out that the example that you gave are examples of other regions, but I would like to introduce 2 elements that maybe haven't been present in today's discussion. One is, well, obviously I come from an institution that his name is underground water. Underground water, we all know, is part of the resources, and of course, there is a big difference of that from the other elements of the water system. Underground water is, I would say, even it holds grudges. I think when we damage them, it holds grudge because underground water will never forget the damages that we did to them. And Germany, Germany's experience of 40-something years. That we have, and that it hasn't been completed yet. It hasn't been completed because we haven't completed recovering the underwater resources. And so, the first question, Belisario, when we were talking about the control of risks and developing projects in rural areas, and developing projects, with all of the complexity that the resources imply. Who helps these, in order to control them? Well, in Germany, we have had many miscalculations on the, duration and the financial intensity that was needed for especially the underground resources. So I'm asking you, what is the role that the ANA could have, or the basin or the watershed councils or water boards that exist here in Peru? I appreciate it a lot. And then something else that I think wasn't present during the discussion, but I already mentioned, right? We have illegal mining, informal mining. We have so many examples of, large-scale mining. And we, as a small unit, we are working with the German Cooperation Agency, with our colleagues from the ministries, and also the support of national German funds, precisely to introduce best practices in the rural areas for small-scale, formalized small-scale mining. This mining does not generate big revenue, streams. Not even for them or for taxes, of course. They don't create a lot of revenue for the government. And that's why this small-scale, mining is definitely not under the radar of many people. But precisely, and I can tell you personally, just to wrap up my comments, and I'm sorry for taking up time, Fabiola, but we've had very good experiences in this area. We have found many miners and people who were in charge of the watersheds, and also the farmers, and the support of different regional development organizations like the SCOSUR in Arequipa. And of course, there is the interest of improving the situation. First, we need to understand the situation. There's a lack of data. There is a lack of information. We need to bring monitoring to these rural areas. We need to bring it in a way that is accessible. Science and technology that exists cannot be applied, one by one. We need to adapt them. And this is work that has not been done. And this is something that I have done some of this with someone. One of them is sitting next to me, and you mentioned this. This is a collective work. We need to get together. We need to listen to the demands, and we need to see what can be changed, what can be, facilitated, so that we can have maybe a first assessment of the water resources, and then just to understand what are the most important problems, the most pressing problems, prioritize them, 1, 2, 3, and then start looking for solutions. And I will finish soon. Don't worry. And then the second question, Belisario. I'm losing my train of thought now. Okay, I'll continue later. I lost my train of thought. I will remember, and I will ask the other question to Belisario as soon as I remember about financing small-scale, formal, legal mining, in terms of supporting them for distribution and having access to water in the rural areas. Because these, small villages in the rural areas, they don't have the capacity. They don't have the capacity to have finances, but the small-scale miners, they would have the potential to have access to financing. But currently, they don't use that capacity. They don't have use that potential, and that could be something that you could add also, and they would improve their economic situation, and maybe having, better mining practices, and then also improve water supply. I don't know. That's one of the questions. And then, I remember that question. Thank you. Thank you, Ronald. I will give you the floor. Belisario, you can come to the front. I don't know. I think that what Ronald just tabled is so important. But maybe in order to guide the discussion a little bit, Oliver, my question is maybe more along those lines. In your experience and based on the projects that you have studied, the small-scale formal mining, how can we articulate this? How can we articulate this, shared financing project? Thank you, Fabiola. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you to the Peruvian Institute of Mining Engineers for inviting me. We have been talking with Ronald this morning. We have heard experts here, and it really has been very, very a rich discussion. I wouldn't only talk about small-scale gold mining. I would say that in the past few years, the small mining producers are also producing copper. Small miners, and I don't think we have the size of it yet. The high prices of metals are making the small miners to do so, but also informal miners, as we heard from the experts today. Now they are increasing in number, even though many of them have, very limited registers through Reinfo, and then there's also illegal miners there. So I think we all agree that this has to be eradicated, strategically. We need to do it. But the small-scale formal miners, they face a lot of challenges, as Ronald mentioned, from very limited investment, limited access to funding, and also just like large-scale mining, they are always going through paperwork and red tape, and there's a lot of bureaucracy, and it's cumbersome, and especially because this is revised by the regional governments. And we all know that the regional governments have a lot of limitations whenever they have to go over environmental impact studies. So I think that is a big bottleneck for small-scale mining. And also, they also have to get, the permits if they are exploration projects, or if they need the water licenses. Also, and something I think that was not mentioned throughout today is what is going to happen to these small-scale miners whenever they have to do the mining closure or post-closure. I don't think we have talked about how are they going to manage water there whenever they have to do the mine closure. So that is very important. Also, the unskilled labor, because the small miners, they are not doing the technological innovation that the medium-sized and the large-scale mining, and they have a lot of local links, and we can also harness that. And I think that we have been harnessing this with Ronald in the past few years. The capacity building that we have been doing, and also being able to do on-site practices in the high Andean sites, and measuring impacts on surface and underground water. So the question, and maybe, this is just a rhetorical question, how can we include small-scale mining with all of these changes and challenges that we have mentioned throughout the day? How do we do this? I feel that the gap between the small-scale, medium-sized, and large mining is getting bigger and bigger, this gap between them. But why not the large-scale mining can contribute as well? They can be a mirror for the small miners, so that the small miners can replicate everything we've seen, like Antamina or Cerro Verde. So many large-scale mines. How can we articulate this? We have the regional governments, we have the academia, we have the universities. We have institutions like Perumin or conventions like Perumin. I'm pretty sure that here at Perumin, there are many junior managers of small mining companies that are walking around, the booths and the stands. And Ronald, we were with Ronald yesterday in the pavilions, and there were many companies offering water treatment systems, but at a very high cost, very high prices. So how can these small miners have access to these technologies that are, clean and also for gold recovery without using mercury, with gravimetric tables or centrifugal methods or concentration methods that won't contaminate, so that they don't have access to it? So I think there's still a lot to do, from the local area, and then to our colleague from Chile who has been sharing the lessons. Definitely this approach has to start from a basing approach, from a watershed approach for sure, and then articulate all of the stakeholders and actors, and so that we can have alternatives to generate these, but so that these small miners can have some access to some sort of funding. Maybe there can be a series of indicators that they can apply, and then, I don't know, to have the support from those who have already been doing this for years. And I congratulate, of course, everyone. I work, I think, since 2011 in small mining, and it's changed a lot. I would say that now there are small producers that do things very well, but they don't get to know each other very well. And there are also informal miners that want to get formalized, but because the gap is increasingly bigger, illegality starts to catch with them. So, just to, finish with this comment, I always say, also because I have worked on conflict prevention, I always say that we need to work together as a team, collectively, because what will happen, a few years from now, when all of these new waste that the informal miners are generating are going to be the new environmental liabilities that we will need to remediate. Maybe, I don't know, 10 years from now. This whole inventory of over 8,000 environmental liabilities are not going to be 8,000 anymore. 10 years from now, they will be twice as much, 3 times as much. So there's a lot of work to do from the government, the institutions, the entities, and every single person who's involved, and even everyone who's here in this room. Thank you very much, Oliver. Thank you for your answer.
I would like to invite Belisario. Would you like to make a comment on Ronald's question? Maybe you have a general comment to share about the panel members on their comments and experiences they have referred to infrastructure, financing, project feasibility, and the alliances with the private sector regarding development projects. Thank you. Thank you again. And just to answer the questions made, on the first question, well, on the first case, the entity that looks for closing the gaps in the Ministry of that are has under the responsibility the SUNAS, the Superintendents of National Superintendents of Water. And they specifically has around 6 years ago different initiative with different products. For instance, the ones that I've mentioned, the savings banks with different names. They are related to water credits. For instance, they mentioned the elevated tanks. I mentioned the elevated tanks, the water and sewage water, and I didn't mention in my presentation, but we had the opportunity to participate in a visit to field visit in an area outside Lima that is called Puente Piedra. It's an elevated area, and there exists access to water. But what happens is that they cut water at 3 in the afternoon. So we had this credit for an elevated tank for 1,000 soles. It is a 600 liters tank, but the beneficiary was a taxi driver who came back at 10 in the evening back home, and he couldn't take a shower as many of us will do. Something very simple, right? So these savings banks, what they will do is to improve people's quality of life through this type of products, and complementing the ministry's initiatives and the regulating entity, plus the private sector like the banks or financial entities, and with water-related products, this gap would be reduced. That it's very wide. So in COFIDE, we will continue this thematic bond issuance, especially blue bonds, to try to reduce these gaps from now to the medium term. So about the second question, from COFIDE, the Development Bank, what we want to do is to, in some point of the chain, to find a link within the mining industry, maybe the settlers, the community, to have a positive impact on the access these families may have to water, maybe access or elevated tanks to get to water connections that exist sometimes in the areas close, but not the connections to their houses. So the products that we have these characteristics, to have not only an elevated tank or to improve a toilet, but to have the connection from the sidewalk to the inside of the house. So through these links or this productive chain with the settlers or suppliers, we may have an impact on the small or medium-sized mining. We could also complement this from the banking sector with credit, direct credits to these small and medium-sized mining companies so that they could continue to grow in the sector. This is what I wanted to share. Thank you, Belisario, for your comments. Well, we had someone from the audience that wanted to say something or make a comment. Yes, please. This is not typical, right? Okay. Well, sorry, this is an interesting topic, right? So there are 4 things that I would like to ask, but I'm going to mention those and you will choose whatever you want to answer. So how to promote interest within the communities? So who would implement these works? Thirdly, how to make sure that the beneficiaries will pay if they need to pay? And in 4th item, the organization. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Good questions, and I really appreciate to be brief in making your comment. So in increasing interest, how do you create interest when you have ownership of something? When you own, when you have something that that belongs to you, you will take care, look after it. I'm going to give you an example of Patas. Jose Luis, well, you are there. There's the guy. With the support of Asociación Patas, and at that time, Jose Luis Calderón was in Poderosa. Well, I'm going to tell you the story. They have a water and sanitation problem in the area, so they created a municipal company or entity of water in the location. About indebtedness, delinquency, sorry, they had 0 delinquency. And who or where in the country has 0 delinquency? And this is something that they give to these people of the community. They make these people own this project. It's not a specific document that entitled them to this, but they give this important message that this water company is yours, and the peasant rounds will make this works where delinquency was 0, water service was all day long, sanitation more than 1. So this is a very interesting model, maybe from a place that is not remote now, away from the noise. But I think that this element is important to tell the people that this is yours and you need to look after this, to take care of it. If something is going to pay, someone needs to pay for that person. So there are ways to create and grow this interest, definitely.
Respuesta rápida.
This was a quick answer to that question. So on those same lines, Vinicius lines, and the 2 first questions that I was able to catch was the interest in the communities is always there. The thing is where the communities have that space to express, to speak about their interests. And if these spaces do not exist, maybe this is not visible. So we have started from the municipalities, showing the potentiality their municipality has. And from then on, we will co-build together with the technical team of the municipality to give relevance to the solutions that they see the communities could be able to do, where the pains and problems of the community are located. And from from there, we will start co-building, right? As I said, we need coordination, we need time, space to co-build. But the result is great because after this is implemented, or when this is implemented, the community implement the solution and operates the solution and maintains this solution. It's important for those who invest. It's something important because when they those that implement, sometimes they are not able to operate and maintain the solution. So the party that is implementing in that way, we will be creating job opportunities, local employment, and on the other side, the community is the one operating the solution, but they decided to do that at a very early stage of the design process.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you. And there was two other topics that you mentioned. Who are the ones that are going to pay? And who organizes all this? Sorry, the speaker has no microphone.
Funcione.
So how they pay and how they organize to finance or fund the situation. So someone would like to make a comment, Belisario, the panel members, or I can do that. Well, I don't want to speak every time, but maybe Belisario could add something else. One of my first experiences in my professional career when I was very young was in a water company in the southern district of Florida. And something that is very American is that all the board of directors of those municipality companies, there are no representatives of the government. There are none. There are users representing or representative of the users. If they're going to raise the rate, they are deciding to do that. So this is something that I love on how they manage. They don't have representative of the government. The users are the ones managing the company. The meetings are transparent. They are open meetings. There are no secret meetings. There is 100% transparency, and this is something that has always called my attention. And this is a successful model. It's a 200-year model, or even more years.
No, gracias por la intervención.
Thank you for your comment, and I think that we could wrap up this panel. Is there a final comment? Vinio? Well, Fabi, we are running out of time, but we will ask for you to, for the audience to stay, and we will make the final reflections or the final remarks, and we will be discussing this. We will be talking about this discussion, and I would like to thank the panel members and Belisario, who has educated us on this topic. We are a little bit different from just 1 hour ago. Thank you, Belisario. Thank you, Oliver. Thank you, Ulrike. Thank you, Ronald. And thank you, Vinio.
¿Aló? Ay, perfecto. Bueno, no nos vamos a presentar nuevamente. Oye,
Well, we will not introduce ourselves again, but I want to thank you all. We had a professor that always said the apostle listening to what we need to say, because who they stay are the ones that are interested. And Fabi and I, as we have always done, we would like to make some general reflections of all this day. This has taken 2 years. This event takes 2 years to be organized. So I would like to start with arithmetic. With arithmetic, well, this holistic message, if we do things all right, 1 plus 1 is more than 2. If we do things wrong, 1 plus 1 is less than 2, okay? So this is the big approach on systems. When the components work in an integrated manner, the whole is better than the sum of the pieces. So I think that this water resource is like that. It's like this. I congratulate many mining companies, and some of those are not that known, anonymous mining companies that work on this topic. Water is social, environment, health, conflict, safety, security. Water has many aspects, many angles. So I think that this approach, what we have been discussing this day, to look for a holistic solution, it's very, very important. And I would like to mention Henry's words again, leadership, really leadership, because, well, we need a leadership that will give us objective goals. The leader is not necessarily someone that speaks more, or, well, the leader is the one who set goals, the one who not only is interested in the mission, but the vision as well, with measurable goals and indicators. So Fabio, also, it's important. So do you have another comment? Well, next thing, the 3 big elements of a sustainable development. We need to include the economic aspect. When I graduated as an engineer, I had a project, and I took it to engineer. It's very beautiful, but how much does that cost? So I realized that something was missing in my career. I went to university, to my PhD, but this is something that we cannot put aside, that we cannot overlook. It needs to be financially sustainable and economic project. And we've been talking about as well, and we've been listening a lot. Ulrike has mentioned a lot about optimization. Well, is Ulrike? Ulrike, where are you? Yes. Engineers love simulations. These are the 2 main analyses of the system: optimization and simulation. Simulation, but optimization, it's more difficult. With a lot of runs, it's not that efficient. But I think this is the time to use this abatement curve and other technologies of optimization. We cannot, with all these challenges that we face, we cannot be optimal, but we have agriculture with irrigation through gravity with a 30% efficiency. We will not get that far. And with non-native, exotic crop, like well, I'm talking about, I'm just in my other head of agriculture engineer that will evotranspire 10 times more than a native crop. I have a presentation, Fabio, where I talk about the 5 superheroes, And I created cartoons. You've seen those, right? Of these 5 superheroes. And one is mining, and also the financial is one of these superheroes. And in reducing or the decarbonization, mining has an important role. And there is no doubt about it. But we still need a mining, and I'm talking about in general terms, mining process and other processes that need to be. No, I'm not talking about mining, but I'm talking about decarbonization. Needs to be rethought. Results are not that good. We have electric vehicles, and who generates that electricity? A carbon plant in this supply chain, 70%. And this is well, maybe I'm confusing you. There are 3 scopes that we measure on sustainability. 1 and 2 are very easy. 1, our own emissions. I'm here sitting and I'm emitting something, electricity, etc. Number 2, it's energy that we consume. And number 3 is the supply chain, right? I may have this microphone here, that to make this microphone, it produce a burn on some place, who knows? So in a study by MIT, this 3rd scope is around 50–60% of emissions. We do not know exactly. So it's important. And I still think that, well, for me, if we have a little bit more time, we need to do a project like the Manhattan Project. In that project, they need to do something, and this was commissioned to the Corps of Engineers of the United States. So Oppenheimer and other intelligent engineers were put together, were gathered. There were other times, and we could not judge because we were not in that same period of time. But we need to rethink these topics on how we are going to start decarbonating, because the needle is not moving towards we would like. And water is impacted immensely with all that. We have lithium batteries. How much can we recycle them? Almost 0. And this has an impact, a huge impact to the environment, and obviously to the water resource. And illegal mining impact and other activities impact, and we've seen graphically in Claudia's presentation, it's a devastating and horrible impact. We have other challenges regarding water, microplastics in water, so serious like climate change. PFAS, it's a chemical created by humans, is indestructible. It cannot be burned, it cannot be destroyed. This is a big mystery. It's a big and huge challenge we're facing. And I wanted to mention as well, and we are talking here, Enrique, as engineers. Engineers will start to manage vulnerabilities. We are managers of risks. And the risk formula, in an abstract way, it's threat multiplied by vulnerability. The physicians know this better. They manage more risk than vulnerability. So we have threats, right? Just we do not have that much to do, almost nothing to do. And this discussion make us conclude that our risk management, there is a space for improvement, definitely. I liked a lot about Henry's concept when he talked about illegal mining, this is a social problem and how we need to address it. And it has different angles, and I would like you to tell me, because you work this in the society and in other entities. So these are difficult issues, difficult things to address. So going back, as engineers, we love more stick than the carrot, right? And I believe and I think that we need to look for those kind of solutions where we will use more carrots, more rewards to put it in a way to solve these huge problems, and it has a snowball effect with results, as it was said, and the speakers said, as Oliver said, results in the mining sector. Oliver, we in the United States, we had this illegal mining equivalent in the 1800s. We haven't been able to solve that problem. Obviously, it was a different time without the technology we have now, but we still have open wounds, hugely open, of that illegal mining. And I stop here, Fabi. Thank you, Vinio. I think that you have made a summary of this whole day, and I just wanted to underscore two things, adding or building on the great analysis you have made. And this is the last space, very relevant of what we've been talking about. Water is the connector that joins us in the different geographies, and, well, the impact of water is worldwide, and it has an impact to every one of us. We've been talking about how this challenge in Chile is the lack of water, and especially for the mining industry, the mining sector, and what that meant for projects' feasibility and sustainability, and also in the regulation aspect. It was a challenge, it was a problem, and everything started to do something different because it resulted in a conflict. The mining in a place with no water, so it was unthinkable to take this small amount of water for mining activity. So in our case, we have excess of water where there is a lot of mining presence, but we still have conflict. It's still a problem. In spite of, well, in Chile, there is an arid, a large area, but in Peru, with an excess of water, is still a conflict. So water is a common interest. So this is why we have generated this space, because there is a lot of opportunity to keep on working together. And another thing that I wanted to mention, the one you mentioned, Vinio, on illegal mining and the different presentation we've been listening to, the effect of the illegal mining in our country, specifically in the Amazon region, the importance of the Amazon region for everything that we are talking about related to climate change. And we are responsible as a representative of institutions and private companies to make this visible, more visible. There was a presentation on the numbers and data, the actual data of the impact and effects of this illegal mining, without talking about great things, but concrete things. This is very painful for our country. This is the reality. And this kind of discussions and conversation to reach an agreement or an agreed solution, to have a bigger space with all the players that make decisions in the different levels within the mining industry is relevant. We talk about illegal mining because we see these situations that has happened just a few months ago, people killed in conflicts, and that added to this impact, and I mentioned this in the morning. This will have an impact for the next generations and in the quality of life of the next generations, and this shouldn't be overlooked, and this is our responsibility to make it more visible. Having said this, I need to follow the protocol side of things. I would like to express my sincere appreciation of all the speakers, the institutions that make it possible this forum, and especially the audience, you that have stayed at the end with your reflections have made this forum alive. And we are convinced, and I am convinced, that the conversations that we started today will keep growing and transforming in concrete actions and commitments. I invite you to take from this space not only learning, but also the opportunity to keep on working together for a water safety, competitiveness in our activities that is relevant to the economy of our country and the challenges on this climate change. And with these reflections and this spirit, we wrap up this forum, and thank you for your participation and commitment. Thank you very much, and definitely see you in the next opportunity. Thank you very much.
Gracias, Vinio. Gracias, Yesenia.
Thank you, Vinio. Thank you, Yesenia.